Welcome to something short and sweet on the Parsha. This week, Parshas Vayera. Come to you today from Tucson, Arizona, visiting the children. And I haven't seen many of you in a long time. It's been the first recording in quite some time. I hope that you are all well. These are the most sweet of Parshios, the Parshios of Avram Avinu. Last week, we met Avram Avinu, Parshas Lech Lecha Me'artzecha. This is after Avram Avinu began to recognize his creator at age 3. It wasn't till age 40, says the Rambam, that he developed a complete understanding of the Ribono Shel Olam. Parshas Lech Lecha, he's already 75. That's his first nevuah, his first prophecy. He has actualized himself. He is ready for a divine visitation. And then we have the two Parshas, Lech Lecha Vayera, the 10 tests of Avram Avinu, where Avram Avinu further develops until he reaches the pinnacle of his life, which was the Akedah, which was the binding of Yitzchak. At that point, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Ki ato yadati, now I know, ki yirei Elokim ata. You have reached the height of awareness of the imminence of the Ribono Shel Olam. Let's take a look at how awesome that event was. Avram Avinu takes his son Yitzchak, and he goes on a 3-day journey. And the Pasuk records the interaction between Avraham and Yitzchak. Vayashkem Avram baboker, Avram Avinu gets up early in the morning. He gets all the provisions ready. Bayom hashlishi vayisa Avraham es Einov, and the Midrashim tell us that he's going bizrizus la'asos ritzon kono, to do the will of the Ribono Shel Olam. He tells his attendants, Eliezer and Yishmael, you wait right here. You don't see what's going on that mountain. You don't see the Anan Kasher ala Har. Therefore, you stay right here. Yitzchak and I are going to go further. Vayikach Avraham esatzei ha'ola, Avram Avinu, so he takes the wood which was going to be used for the offering. Vayosam al Yitzchak bano, and he puts them on Yitzchak. Vayikach biyado es ha'esh ve'es ha'ma'acheles, and he takes the fire, and he takes the chalaf, he takes the knife. Vayelchu shnehem yachtav. And the two of them went together. Please listen to Rashi's comment on the two of them went together. Avraham shehoy yodea sheholech lishchot es bano. Avram Avinu knew very well that he was going at the behest and at the command of the Ribono Shel Olam to slaughter his son. Yes, the Midrash tells us that Avram Avinu, as a father and as a loving father, was crying. That Avram Avinu, this is something that he was praying actually, that he did not have to do. But yet this was the command of the Ribono Shel Olam, and therefore a major part of him was holech beratzon v'simcha. He went with willingly, and he went with joy. He's going to fill the ratzon boro, the will of his creator. So he went ki Yitzchak. He went with the same zrizus, with the same alacrity. At least that part of him went with the same intention as Yitzchak shelo hayu margish bedavar. We can imagine Yitzchak taking a trip with his loving father, Yitzchak who's going to do the will of God together with his father. Unbeknownst to him, he is the korban, but he's just going to do with dear old dad. He's going to do the will of God, the joy that he must have had with those moments with his father. Avram Avinu and Yitzchak, says Rashi, Yachtav, they went with the same mind. Vayomer Yitzchak el Avraham, and then Yitzchak says to his father, Vayomer Avi, Dad. He says, where is the fire? Where is the wood? We have the wood, we have the fire. Vayehasel ola. but where's the offering? Where's the animal? What are we going to bring up? And Avram Avinu responds, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will show us. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't provide us with an animal, it's going to be you. All of a sudden, Yitzchak realizes he very well might be the sacrifice. And yet, Vayelchu Shneim Yachdav, again, the pasuk tells us they went together. And again, an amazing comment of Rashi. Vayelchu Shneim Yachdav belev shaveh, with the same feeling, Avraham and Yitzchak. Va'afal pi shehaven Yitzchak shu holech lishachet. Even though now Yitzchak realized he's going to go. Yitzchak, like Avram Avinu, is going to do the Ratzon Boro. He's going to do the will of his commander, and even though that means he's going to give his life, he's going to be Moser Nefesh, he goes with Zrizus, with alacrity, which stems from Simcha. He's going to do the will of God, father and son, now well aware of what they're going to do. Vayechu Shneim Yachtov. Yitzchak goes like Avram Avinu, who was going before to do the will of God, even though he knew what he was going to do. Avraham and Yitzchak, flawless in their performing the will of the Ribono Shel Olam, Ovdei Hashem. My friend, it gets much better. They continue on their path. Avraham Avinu binds Yitzchak. Yitzchak says, Abba, bind me tightly. I'm going to be a korban. I'm going to be a sacrifice. I don't want to twitch. There would be a natural reaction, and that would invalidate me as a korban. Bind me tightly. And he goes to slaughter his son, and an angel stops him. And then he says those words, Ki ata yadati, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Ki at, now I know, Ki yirei Elokim ata, that you are a God-fearing person. And Avram Avinu looks around, and he says, okay, but I want to bring a sacrifice. And that's where he sees the ayil. He sees the ram, and he takes the ram up as a korban to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Avram Avinu then goes ahead, and Avram Avinu says, you know something? This was an awesome situation. This was an awesome place. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence will always be felt here. Har HaMoriah will always be felt here. And he calls Hashem Yireh, and that's where we get the name Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim, Hashem Yireh. It had previously been called Shalem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loved the name that was given by Shem ben Noach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loved the name given by Avram Avinu. So Yireh and Shalem becomes Yerushalayim. Avram Avinu knew it was an awesome event. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu then, through the Malach, he gives him the most beautiful blessings. He says, your children will be many, like the stars of the heaven. You will inherit your enemies. You will vanquish your enemies. And all the nations of the world will have you as a model of blessing. You should be like Avram Avinu. The entire parsha concludes with these words. Vayoshav Avraham el Na'arav. Avram Avinu and Yitzchak, having scaled the pinnacle of spirituality, the pinnacle of Avodas Hashem, the pinnacle of that mountain, now come back to Yitzchak, to Eliezer and Yishmael, the two attendants, who had only escorted them part of the way. They return to them. Vayakumu, the boys get up. Vayelchu yachtav el be'er shava. They go yachtav. Many commentaries, Ben Yehoyada among them, says, oh boy, there's that word yachtav again. What did yachtav originally mean? Avraham and Yitzchak, the two of them, one knowing, one not knowing. Second time it says yachtav, again, Avraham and Yitzchak. Now Yitzchak knows, going to do the will of their creator. And now it's the four of them. Yachtov. What is the meaning of Yachtov here? So these great commentaries explain. Yishmael and Eliezer had no clue what just happened there on the mountain. They were back in their station, just shooting the breeze, or maybe surfing the internet. They were not doing anything of consequence there, Yishmael and Eliezer. And now they're walking off with Avraham and Yitzchak, who had arrived, who had achieved. And the pasuk tells us they went yachtav. Just as Yitzchak, just as Yishmael and Eliezer, it was no big deal for them. So too, Avraham and Yitzchak, in their humility, it was no big deal. Because for Avraham and Yitzchak, I think we could say it was all in a day's work. Everything that Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak Avinu did was service of the Ribono Shel Olam. And no matter how great, and no matter how usual, it was all service of the Ribono Shel Olam. And therefore, to them, it was no big deal. Just like it was no big deal to Yishmael and Eliezer. That is Avram Avinu. That is Yitzchak Avinu. Doing the will of God was what they did all the time. This is Yireh Shamayim. I'm walking down the street, nothing remarkable is happening. I'm an Oved Hashem. I am put in a predicament, which is very challenging and very trying. And my whole being is seemingly against, and I do it. I'm doing the will of Hashem. This is the ultimate Mesiras Nefesh. What does Mesiras Nefesh mean? I give myself over. I give myself over to fulfill the dictates of the Ribono Shel Olam. In our day, we have so many people, our holy soldiers, who have given themselves over to the will of the Ribono Shel Olam, for the defense of the Jewish people, for the defense of the Holy Land, knowing full well what that might mean. My nephew, Hashem Yikam Edamo, Moshe Yedidya later, Moshe Yedidya ben Yechiel Michal, his yahrzeit coming up next week. He and so many other of his comrades, at least 782 of them, marched into battle, knowing full well that this might be their last. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of other troops have done the same. Moser Nefesh, to do the will of God, to defend their people. You know, it's very interesting. I just watched a video of it was a podcast, somebody interviewing my brother. And the interviewer was saying how he just had watched some recordings, my nephew Moshe, in Gaza before he was killed. And these recordings reflected a composed, serene, determined young man. The words of the podcaster were, it was clear he was having a situation briefing in a bombed out house in Gaza. It was an extremely fearful situation. And he couldn't help but recognize the fact that Moshe was happy, was relaxed, and he was in control. Shades of Avram Avinu at the Akedah. Shades of Yitzchak Avinu at the Akedah. These soldiers have been Moser Nefesh. They have given of themselves with serenity, with determination, with an understanding. They are true children of Avraham, and true children of Yitzchak. And their zuchus, where we come to an end of this horror very soon. May our Mesiras Nefesh, the Mesiras Nefesh of all of Klal Yisrael, be for happy things, be for good things, be for greeting Be'ezus Hashem in this zuchus, the final days, which we joyfully greet Mashiach. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos.